In prison ministry, you have black and white, and that's one reason why I like it. There is no gray.
Okay. Boldly,
So-
one way or the other.
right. And these guys know who they are, and the other guys know who they are. And there's no place to hide in prison ministry. They live with the guys 24/7.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
We're here today visiting with Mark Dunley. He's a member of a local church, and he goes to do prison ministry on a regular basis. I met him at a friend of ours' Thursday night Bible study. Mark says that he wants to tell about himself and how he became part of the prison ministry in the state of Oklahoma.
Sure. And Craig, thank you for inviting me. Well,
I'm glad you're here.
Jesse, and your
Jesse.
producer,
Yeah.
co-producer.
Yeah.
it's
No,
good
he
to be
is the
here.
production manager. He's the
Production
guy
manager.
that makes it all happen. I'm just in here talking, and Jesse's in that other room, video and editing, and make sure it all works right.
Well, let's start with Jesse.
How did you meet Jesse?
Yeah, I have a hobby of beekeeping, and I live on a corner lot, so a lot of people see my beehives in the backyard. And he stopped by when I wasn't home. My wife answered, and he was wanting to buy some honey. And by the way, would like to invite you to the neighborhood Bible study.
Wow.
And so that's how I got plugged in with Jesse, and that it was really thrilling to me. And we had a prison ministry appreciation luncheon, if you will, cookout in my backyard. And so I invited he and his wife to attend, and then I invited him to give his testimony. And he was very transparent, but it's amazing. I love testimonials because you go to Revelations 12, I think is verse 10, and it says, "The accuser of the brethren goes before God's throne day and night, accusing them." The question, how do we overcome the accuser? Then the answer is given in black and white directly, and it says, by the blood of the Lamb. And then there's an and.
Yes, sir, there
And
is.
by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives even unto death.
Yeah.
I love that.
Let's
because-
expose ourselves for what we were and give God the glory for what we are.
Absolutely.
So how did
Um,
you get
In prison ministry.
in prison ministry? How do we get to the point of Mark getting to that point? Tell us about Mark Nunley.
Well,
How were you
okay.
raised? All this stuff, just
Sure.
like a 2
My-
or 3 minute deal.
My wife and I were raised in Tulsa, born and raised. We're the few native Tulsans that still live here in this great city called Tulsa, Oklahoma. And
Yeah, I'm definitely a transplant. We moved here in 2008. So we've been here about 17 years.
welcome.
Thank you.
Finally,
Thank you.
welcome.
So anyway, born and raised in Tulsa.
Yes, born and raised in Tulsa. I was raised up eventually on the west side. My wife was raised up on the east side. And the current church we go attend right now is we met in the middle of Tulsa, basically, west meeting east at a Christmas Eve candlelight service.
Oh, those are nice.
So that was about 2 years before we got married. And there's some funny details, funny story about that, how we actually met.
So
there.
tell me the story.
Okay.
Don't just tease me. Tell me the story.
Okay, so I was a single parent raising kids up.
How old were you about?
I was then 38, I believe.
Okay.
And I don't recommend divorce for anybody, but it happened. And so I finally got interested in maybe I should get married. So I had this date and she was late. And the usher says, "Hey, Mark, the auditorium is filled up, and the only seats that you're saving is right there where you have, you and your family are saving, my kids and my brother who was there. And if you don't sit down, we have a lot of visitors back here." I said, let me go look for my late date one more time. I was going through the hallway. I met my wife. And so I looked at her and she didn't have her, like, wow, she's a pretty classy looking lady. And my date stood me up, I thought. And she didn't have a wedding ring on. So I asked her if she was looking for a place to sit. And, and she said, yes, I'm looking for my friends. There was nowhere else. I only had the seats left. So I invited her to sit with me in my party, and another friend, and my brother and sons. And so she took me up on it, and lo and behold, there was my late date sitting
Oh
right
my
there. And I
God.
freak out. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? And so fortunately, my friend knew my current wife, who was serving on the missionary committee at that time. And I didn't know. I never even seen her at church. And so there was a space next to him. So I sat her next to him and my late date. At the end, it was beautiful, this traditionally at our church, they turn down the lights at the end, they sing Silent Night, the elders light the candles.
Yeah.
And it was so romantic. The church is all decorated up and Christmassy. And I'm just like, man, God, I know this is vain. I feel vain even thinking the thought, but if I was standing next to this woman I just met instead of my late date, it would be a perfect night. And as soon as I thought I thought I'm going to invite her to the singles Christmas party afterwards. I'm going to invite her. Lights come on. I turn around to invite her. She's gone. I'm like, Terry, that's my friend. And I said, where did this lady that I sat you now? I don't know. He's looking around, but I know her. She serves on the missionary committee. And so eventually we got some double dating going on. And 2 years later, we're married.
How cool. How cool.
So yeah, West meets East, both Tulsa natives at a church, Christmas Eve candlelight service.
Nice.
And that was 25 years ago, just about.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a pretty long marriage.
Do what?
That's a fairly long marriage for
Well,
these days.
we'll be married 23 years. So
Yeah.
I'm counting the first time I met her
Sure.
for 2
Yeah,
years on
yeah,
top of
yeah.
that. So God is graceful. And I do believe that, man, Craig, God uses marriages to sharpen us all up. We learn the Christian walk in marriage.
Absolutely. And well, we have these relationships that are very brief, sometimes where we'll meet somebody for a few minutes. And then we have these longer relationships that we know that relationship might be 30 minutes a week. Then we have these deeper relationships that are maybe coworkers or something like that. And then we have our core.
Yes.
And some people don't have that in their life at all. I had a guy on a podcast not too long ago, and he said that his mom and his daughter died the same year, and nobody asked him how he was. Nobody showed him a bit of compassion. He didn't have that sphere of relationships that we're talking about. That's sad.
Yeah. And Christianity is about relationships.
It is.
To the heart, to the core, foundation of relationships is about people.
Yeah.
And it's about reconciliation. And that's one reason why I'm in prison ministry and serve at also a crisis pregnancy center to mentor men.
Oh, wow.
And
so what?
here
A
in town.
crisis pregnancy
Yeah, it's
center
called-
to mentor
should I give the name?
men?
Right. Isn't that
Tell me more.
right? Okay. So this is, can I say the name of the?
Sure.
Okay. Men.
As long as they're okay with you saying their name.
I don't know.
So let's not say
it. Well, I think they would be okay with that.
All right, do what you want.
It's a great ministry here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Men Medical Services. It's been around for about 37 years. And it started organically with some friends, with pregnant daughters that needed the place, refuge. And so the last about, so let me tell you a little bit about that. We have Men Medical Services provides, of course, free pregnancy tests, free counseling it's a women's ministry mainly. It's a medical clinic for women. We give free ultrasounds, STI test even, which have been doing that for the last couple of years, I believe. And we also have an Earn While You Learn program, which is an educational program for these boyfriends and girlfriends, and sometimes even husband and wives that come in, and they never had a mentor in their life. They was maybe raised up in foster homes, or sometimes even in and out of prison. And so we provide this as an incentive. We have this thing called baby bucks, and basically is credits or points. So every time they watch a parenting video or meet a mentor for Bible counseling, they earn baby bucks or credits. And so when they accumulate, you can go, we have a store called a boutique store down the hallway, and we have everything from car seats and boxes that's never been used, strollers, baby beds, playpens, toys, diapers. By the way, diapers,
Diapers get expensive.
Not only eggs is expensive, but diapers are very expensive. And so it's a great program, and it's a great resource for people who are struggling, who don't know what a family looks like. We have over 200 videos for these boyfriend and girlfriends or husband and wives to view and or meet with the mentor. And so the director a few years ago was like, wow, they kept on noticing maybe one boyfriend would come in multiple times in a year with multiple different girlfriends pregnant.
Oh, wow.
It's like, okay, we're only reaching one part of this, and we need the equation. There's two parts to this. So they had the board got together and they decided to, let's try this. And that was several years ago. And so I could tell you some stories and some, maybe I shouldn't, I can't share those stories for
I would say if you don't name
confidentiality.
names.
No.
Okay.
But we are there for the guys who didn't have a dad, doesn't know what a dad does. They're nervous. They're stressed out. They don't know. They've never had a kid before, and they never was raised up by dad. So they're really stressed out. So this is where the men's ministry at Men Medical Services comes in alongside. When we don't force anything on anybody, it's all free will, at their choosing if they want to do that.
Tell me a little bit about how you guys do the prison ministry as well.
Sure. At the church where I met my wife, it's a pretty local family church, good church. A guy just announced it one day. Says, hey, we're looking for men to go up to Dick Connor Correctional Center. And I thought, Craig, that I would just do it. Hey, high adventure. I'm all about sharing the gospel. So sign me up. And I thought I would do it maybe 2 or 3 times. And that was in 2000, the year of our Lord, 2000.
So 25 years ago.
25 years I've been involved, and unless you don't count the COVID shutdown, that 1 year or so. But yeah, so I've been connected with prison ministry for 25 years.
How often do you
go? I go multiple times in a month. I was there last night. I was there last Sunday. The guys that volunteer with prison invasion ministry, they can go once every 2 months. They can go as much as they want. There was just recently, and you would like this, Craig, some guys had a burden for discipling because a lot of our ministry was based on touch and go. Hand them a gospel tract, hand them some literature, offer a prayer, share the gospel, and go. And not see
maybe them. Try to get them to profess Christ as their Savior, and then leave them for finding out about it themselves. Sometimes I've seen that happen.
Yes, yeah, and the Holy Spirit has to be involved as a Christian, a believer in the Word of God. You can't force religion down people. People's not going to come to Jesus Christ, to the Father, unless the Father is drawing them in, working on their heart by the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
I'll tell you a quick story because this gets to the heart. Prison ministry gets to the heart of man. In prison ministry, you have black and white, and that's one reason why I like it. There is no gray.
Okay. Boldly, one way or the other.
Right. And these guys know who they are, and the other guys know who they are. And there's no place to hide in prison ministry. They live with the guys 24/7.
Times. But yeah, there are those
But-
conversions, and we love
yes.
on people and not judgmental about whatever that is.
Right. And that's what I love. I love to hear the testimonials, the transparency, the honesty in chapel services when they come, or in discipleship. That's what I was trying to get to a while ago. I forgot. I'm sorry. So some guys got this discipleship program about 3 years ago, and we were talking earlier about how disciple is messy. It takes time,
Yes.
investment, energy.
I know it took
emotion.
that for me.
Huh?
I know it took that for me.
Aren't you
had a-
thankful though?
I had a man come up beside me, and he put his arm around me the best way that he knew how, which was very abrasive, which I needed in my life. He was a public figure here in town, and he and his wife and Rita and I went to dinner 2 or 3 times a week for 6 or 7 years. I mean,
Wow.
we were just tight knit, and a lot of other people couldn't take him because he was a father figure, abrasive, told you what he really thought. And I needed that in my life for an extended period of time before I could get my mind different than it was. A lot of people that we knew couldn't handle that. So they didn't
Right.
hang out with us as much.
Right. So you must have been pretty abrasive.
I was abrasive to be able to take the abrasiveness, I suppose, or I was thick skinned so I could take the abrasiveness. And I needed
Right.
that in my life. Anyway, you were saying
So what was I saying?
people were open in the prison and discipling, and it
Right.
could be
So
messy.
the discipling, and I am being convicted more and more that discipling is where the answer is. We think about, even in the city of Tulsa, we think we have all these secular great programs to help the homeless, to help the just the drug addict, and but the Christians kind of have, over the years, the last few decades, just kind of like, politics is dirty. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get involved with drug addictions, with prisoners. That's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I recently,
So let's withdraw as a Christian community and be with each other instead of reaching out
yeah,
as
because
much as they did.
it's the testing of your faith, how much you love God. The 2 great commandments is to love the Lord thy God with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength. And how can, first of all, that's a salvation question right there, because how can you truly love God if you don't even know God? And of course, as Christians, we know that Jesus Christ is the mediator and is a bridge to make that happen. And then second, to love your neighbor as yourself. How can you really truly love your neighbor if you don't even know their name next door?
That's right.
If you're not involved in their
That's
life.
right.
And so in the 2 great commandments, I see relationship. God so valued relationship. I'm paraphrasing John 3:16 here.
Yeah, I hear it.
That he gave his one and only begotten son. And the message is about reconciliation. We see that. I mean, Jesus was in prison ministry, right? Before he died, he granted paradise to a thief on the cross beside him.
That's right.
There was no
That's right.
water baptism. There was no fasting. There was no reading the Bible. There was no time to get your theology right. He was just calling out in
Yes.
faith. And by the way, I don't know if you know about the scientific ordeal about crucifixion, but it's have you ever heard the term crucible?
Tell me about it.
It's Latin, but that's where that crucifixion came from. It's one of the horrific ways of dying, and I don't want to go into details.
No,
right
yeah,
here.
yeah. It's very painful
Very painful.
and
So we got
long
that.
drawn out.
Long drawn out. You have to push yourselves up to be able to breathe, because the
Yeah, long
diaphragm's
drawn
been-
out, painful deal.
And so that prisoner or that thief, capital punishment he's receiving, is crying out. He was mocking him earlier.
Yeah,
And then one of the Gospels says he turned to Jesus and said, "Remember me when you enter to your kingdom." Of course, he's gasping for breath as
sure.
he's doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
in
How
pain,
painful that. Yeah.
to push himself up to even breathe.
Yep.
And
And
then
that's
the
how he-
Lord had to do the same thing when he says, "Today you will be with me in paradise."
Yeah.
That's prison ministry.
That's
On
right. That's right. And so many people don't realize that they might be in a self-imposed prison or jail sentence because they are bound by things that are restricting their lives, no matter what that is.
Exactly.
I used to go to David L. Moss County Jail here, and it appeared to me that those people could be more free behind bars than maybe I
Exactly.
was at
100%.
sometimes in my life. And that was a message that I brought to them. And it helped me as much as it helped them see my life different and how different it could be.
And it goes back to the gospel. It's about reconciliation.
Yeah.
In relationships.
Yeah.
That's
and
what the
it's-
great commandment, right relationship with God so we can rightly know how to love our neighbor.
And it's
And-
more blessed to give than receive. Every
Yes.
time that I've ever tried to give to anybody else, I've learned more than I was trying to give.
I have to be transparent. There's times I didn't want to drive all the way up to Hominy. There's times I wanted to just go fishing or be at the ball game, you know. But
Hey, there's a ministry that we're going to have on the podcast that wants men to go out and fish with their youth. So maybe we
nothing
can
wrong
hook
with
you
that.
up.
I love it. It give me a good excuse to get a break. No, but every time I go, when I get my attitude, my heart right before God, and I go, you're right. Jesus said it's more blessed to give than to receive. I think actually one of the disciples said that about what Jesus said.
Yeah.
But
How
it did come from
do, yes,
Jesus.
that's right. Yes, he recalled that Jesus said that.
Yes.
So, how do we help you as a community live life better? How do we help you live life better?
Help me
Yes.
as a community live life better.
Yes. So, you're doing this
Wow.
deal. How can we introduce people to you?
Well, if they want to get involved in prison ministry, we'd love to have volunteers to join us. There's even an indirect way of being involved in prison ministry, and that is through just grading Bible lessons. You leave your name anonymous. You can write notes of encouragement. You can pray for them. You can receive these Bible lessons. We have a courier that takes them back up there, and
We can put a link.
yes,
To that
the
ministry?
link is prisoninvasion.org.
Okay.
I'm the temporary current chairman right now,
Good.
and
We got the big guy himself on here today.
actually the big guy is our coordinator, Carthel Cobb. He's the
Okay.
one that keeps everybody together. He's a great coordinator. He's very gifted in that, but in administration. But
Tell us that
Yeah.
.org.
yeah,
again.
prisoninvasion.org. Prisoninvasion.org. Would
All right.
love to have you visit our site, contact us, drop a note, and we'll be glad to answer your questions and carpool together to Hominy, Oklahoma, or Bonita. Sometimes we go to Bonita, and there is a need. There's a lot. The harvest field is ripe, right? And
Yes,
so
sir.
a few months ago, I was having a conversation with my pastor, and I'm also involved in our community, knocking on doors for candidates that I believe are good candidates after I've vetted them out. And so I said to my pastor, I said, having a missionary team and missionary committee is great. I'm not against that at all. Going across overseas to Africa or India. My wife's been to India or Jordan or South America or wherever, just going great distances. But what about our backyard? It seems like Christians
Over there is better. Over there is better
it
to
says-
minister to over there.
Jesus says to go into all the world, but there's two places in the world that Christians just doesn't like to go to.
Their
I
own
can
backyard.
understand this as a man, as human, right? I can understand why, but it shouldn't be that way. Just think if
What are the two places?
the two places, yes, thank you. The two places are prison. There's a world there that needs the gospel, that needs discipleship.
And talk about being
And the
able
other
to see
place
that
is-
some way that's
What?
if you go to prison, you can probably see a different way of living than you currently
Yes.
live. That would be a big experience for a lot of
Yeah.
people. And
I
the
know
other-
I've had parents come, is there any way I could sneak my 16-year-old and go in there with you?
and the other place that people don't
And
like
the other
to go.
place is the political world, government world.
And you put yourself in both of those.
I put myself in both of them. And so somebody's got to do it, right? And I was telling my pastor, I said, Pastor Jared, I said, there's these two worlds. I said, guess what? Both Democrats and Republicans, no matter if you're a liberal or conservative, both need Jesus Christ. They need reconciliation. They need healing. They need forgiveness for their own souls. They need eternal life.
So you're bringing
He did not disagree with me.
So you're trying to bring the ministry not only to prisons, but maybe create another one that would go into the public elected officials?
I never even thought of that until just now. Thank you, Craig. I don't need another ministry for that. But no, I want to encourage just regular grassroots people, just going to 9-to-5 job, get to know your neighbors.
People love it.
Get involved in the neighborhood. Join the HOA. Join a political party of your choosing. But get involved in the community. Get involved in government meetings. Contact or email your city councilor. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation.
That's what this is all about. Tulsa Talks is about community. We're here to help people live better lives through having meaningful, everyday conversations. Mark, thanks for coming on to our podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?